Hold on, before we get into the review, please take a look at this graph of the Mangirds Xenns top. Just see how well it follows my own target. Oh my god, this is gonna be great. Hey friends, welcome back to another video on Thieaudio. Today we have the Mangirds Xenns top, and if you guys recalled, I reviewed the Mangird T2 and the Mangird Xenns up in the past, both of which didn't really impress me all too much. My thoughts on them nowadays is that the Mangird T2 is just fine, like it's not impressive. There's a lot that needs to be fixed with that. Like the bass texture needs work, also details and treble as well needs work. Overall, a balanced sounding set, good, but many other options exist. The Mangird Xenns Up is pretty good across the board, if not for the two biggest blunder. Number one being bass control. If that was reined in a bit, it would be tuned much better and sound much better as well. Blunder number two is the price. It's just way too high for what you're getting. And Mangird T, the original, how can we forget? That one I didn't like so much. So with the previous three Mangird offering being underwhelming for me, how does the new Mangird Xenns top stack against those three and to the market in general? Well, I can say one thing. It's much better. Just annihilate the other three out of existence. Let's start this review by jumping into the sound impressions. Now, the Xenns top has a harmony neutral type of tuning akin to something like the Variations or the Truth Air Zero. Now, the bass tuck on the Xenns top is not as tucked as on the Variations and the Zero, giving male vocals more of that natural heft, that natural warmth, while at the same time keeping a very clean cut separation between the bass regions and the lower mid-range. No mud, no bloatiness, a lot of fun bass, and still very clean and natural sounding mid vocals. So it has it all basically. The upper mid-range on the Xenns top is forward, so female vocals, instruments comes across more lively. It does have a little bit of unevenness though, so it's not the smoothest or the most effortless feeling upper mid-range. The Variation does better in that regards, but overall still great quality upper mid-range. The little bit of unevenness is more of a nitpick. The treble area is where I find the Xenns top to be the most impressive and a clear improvement over many, if not all IEMs below $500. The Xenns top has treble extension that's not only smooth, but incredibly well extending, and also has nice sense of air at the end as well. So cymbal hits comes across cleaner, crispier, while at the same time not having that grainy effect that you find on an aria. Now, the only thing that I will say about the treble area that might be a con is that it might just be a little bit too much for some of you who are more sensitive to treble. For me, it is perfectly fine, beautiful, excellent quality treble. I would say endgame level treble. It is an overall improvement even compared to the Variations treble, which I already deemed to be pretty good. The Xenns top's treble is just a step above. Next is technical performance. Let's bring up my scale right here. The Mangird Xenns top sits firmly a little bit ahead of the Timeless. Because of the lack of big peaks and big dips, the treble is allowed to display every information to you in a very clean and transparent way. The sense of stage is also very nice due to the amount of air that it has, also with the tuning being this style as well, upper mid-range being more forward and lower mids being very well controlled. It creates this type of stage that sounds more spacious, very similar to the Variations. So yes, Mangird Xenns top, technical performance, really good. Next, we have the comparison to Moondrop's Variations, another IEM that I consider top tier at around $500. The Xenns top for me feels like a slight improvement over the Variations. It would have been a full improvement if the upper mid-range was done as good as on the Variations, but everything else about the Xenns top is better. I like the bass profile on the Xenns top more because it sounds more realistic to me. It's not too tucked like on the Variations. The treble, like I said again, is smoother and also reveals more details than on the Variations as well. The Variations has better timbre overall, more natural feeling instruments because of the more even upper mid-range, but the rest of it, Xenns top wins. I should say one thing about the Variations before we move on to the next comparison, is that the Variations bass profile really depends on which unit you end up getting or which unit you're looking at for comparison. So my unit has a base tuck that is probably the most severe out of every reviewer. I think only Precog's unit comes close to mine, but some reviewers have way less of a base tuck. Like on Nymph's variations, the base tuck is actually very similar to the Xenns top, and a lot of other reviewers have, you know, a varying level of base tuck here. Depends on which unit they got. Now, I initially thought it was Moondrop that changed the tuning over time. Maybe the older model has more of a tuck, but since a lot of people complain, they kind of add on a bit more mid-bass in the newer version. But that's really not the case, because I checked the graph for Super Reviews and also Chris from HBB as well, who also got very early units, and they graph differently in the bass regions. So the variations has quite a few variations in their bass tuning. So double check your unit of the variations if you own one to see which graphs is more similar to. If it's more similar to my graph, then yes, the Xenns top is a recommendation as an upgrade to your unit. But if it graphs more like Nymphs, then not really, just keep your variations. Next, we have the comparison with my favorite $500 IEM, and that is the Thieaudio Oracle. The timbre, instrumentals, vocals on the Oracle is probably the most beautiful thing that I've ever heard. So the Xenns top is not gonna beat the Oracle in overall naturalness and timbre by any stretch of the imagination, but everything else on the Xenns top is better. The bass has more texture, hits with more authority, while at the same time being just as clean as on the Oracle. The treble is smoother and also again more revealing in details than the Oracle as well. Soundstage and imaging wise is also a step up in the Xenns top as well. So yes, the Xenns top objectively has a lot more good qualities than on the Oracle. For me though, I still love the vocals and instrumentals that comes out of the Oracle so much that I would grab the Oracle more times than I would grab the Xenns top. But for most of you guys out there, the Xenns top is a better option. And for those asking for my thoughts on Oracle Mark II, it's not that good. Actually, just alright. Alright, with all that being said, what's the final score for the Mangirds Xenns top? It's obviously a big green thumbs up. It is right now currently one of the best IEM you can grab around $500. It is a true competitor to the Moondrop variations and even a slight upgrade in some ways, and the variation is already the previous #1 at around $500. So the Xenns top sits firmly within at least the top 3 IEMs you can grab for this price range. With that all being said, now I'd like to thank my Patreon subscribers. We have Kai, Chadwick, Suni Roll, Norm, and Mr. Mason. Thank you so much for the support. If you guys want to support the channel yourself, link to Patreon is below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Bye.